It wasn't long after the internet was invented where criminals figured out that this is a place we can go, and if I try hard enough, I can find people to exploit. And if the person you're looking for is a vulnerable or an impressionable and sometimes naive teenager, online is where you can find them.
An online presence is really a part of most kids' 24-hour life, right? They wake up to it, they check in with it, they're communicating with their friends through it.
The most vulnerable would be teenagers, just because they predominantly use a lot of social media. They're on multiple platforms. They have a lot of information that's available just for people to be able to look at. I've found most teenagers don't have a lot of privacy settings to where, their accounts aren't blocked, so you can figure out who all of their friends are, where do they go to the school. They're posting pictures of themselves. You can pretty much reconstruct a teenager's life just by looking at their online presence. That's how someone in another country or in another state can find out a ton of information about a child in Iowa and then use that information to exploit them through social media. The language starts out, just fun. They're trying to seem like a teenager or similarly aged, male or female, depending on what they think someone wants to talk to. And then once that progresses, when they finally get an image, or whenever the point where they kind of do the reveal of what they're actually here for. So it's either once they get images from you or when they send you the images that you've sent or that exist, that are out there, then that's when the language is going to pick up, where they're going to start threatening.
So for decades we've been investigating cases where a predator would entice someone to send them some explicit photographs or lure them somewhere to meet, and it was for sexual purposes. And this is a lot different. This is all about extorting for money. It's about the cash. And when we start talking about teenagers or young adults, they just don't have those resources. And when this happens to them, they get really scared.
With these cases, there's just such a high element of shame and fear, because it's a very personal crime. Typically these children are being extorted. They've either sent an image of themselves, probably in a state of nudity, to another person that turns out that person is not who they thought. Everyone's going to know. They're trying to get you to think and get into a mental space where you're afraid of what would happen if those images were to go out.
I think there's such shame in the issue around sex and nudity or whatever is in that video or on that in that snap or in whatever in that media, that it really pauses kids to tell a trusted adult because it's so intimate.
This is where it gets really scary. Just when someone kind of gets hooked in this and they respond. So they say they start sending money. It's very stressful and probably just terrifying for the people who are involved. They will hound someone for their last $5 in their bank account. They'll ask for pictures. Show me what's in your bank account. Show me how much money you have in your Cash App. Get another job. Can you ask someone for money? So then they get into this frenzy of just trying to keep their images from getting sent out to all their friends, and then they just start doing irrational things and just living in a constant state of fear and worry about this.
They do not see any way out, right? They see, I'm in big trouble. I don't know what's happening, but I know what this person is telling me is going to happen, and I don't know how to get out of it. And so we've seen, right, through many cases across the nation of kids just not seeing a way out and ending their lives.
I guarantee you'd see an effect in someone's grades and their performance if they're involved in sports. Just kind of being isolated, just because they internalize that fear.
But we often don't know what's going on behind that screen. So I think it's extra important when your kid has a phone to do the obvious protections that your phone plan and the individual cell phone age limits provides. Have they suddenly withdrawn, or are they being more secretive than what is sort of developmentally appropriate? And are they hiding technology? There's secretive, right? And then there's hiding your technology.
It's frightening to look at the data on how fast this crime is growing across the nation, across our state, and it's happening here in Des Moines. And we also know that it's significantly underreported. And when we do get a victim that has the courage and the support to come forward, these cases are very complex. They take our detectives from a victim here in Des Moines, and then you find that there's a victim maybe in another part of the state. And then before you know it, you're talking to a victim in another part of the country.
A case with a girl in North Carolina, and I reached out. I was able to kind of trace her. I got on her Instagram profile. I was able to figure out just through images and things she had posted on her normal profile. I was able to kind of narrow down where she lived at. I was able to find a phone number for her. I finally was able to call her. And then she was still, gosh, this was probably months after I'd even gotten the case. She was still making payments, still scraping together every little bit of money she could, just sending out into the internet, hoping that these things wouldn't get. And she was crying on the phone when I talked to her, and she was just terrified to stop paying them.
What we see in a lot of these cases is that the actual suspect is in a different country. And that used to be a pretty hopeless situation for us, but we've got the support of the FBI, and they have a unit that is dedicated to tracking down suspects outside of the United States and bringing them back to justice in this country. But it's important that we make sure kids understand that these suspects could be anybody. It could be your next door neighbor. It could be somebody else in your class. It could be someone in a different state, and it could be a total stranger, you're right. But we have to make sure the kids understand that these people are out there.
We need to recognize how many adults, young adults to very old adults are waiting, right? They're just waiting for these kids to make one tiny mistake. And they're masters at grooming, and they've established trust. And when they have this media, it really gives them power. And so kids, just because their brain isn't as developed as it can be, right, to make these complex decisions, oftentimes they just shut down.
Best advice I can give them would be to talk to your kids. Know what social media they use. Know where they're talking. Talk to them about conversations. Have blunt conversations where, not for the intention of, they're not getting in trouble, but just you want to have this safe place where you can ask them, hey, have you ever sent images? Have you ever sent videos? Have you ever been asked to do any of those things? Try to educate your children.
In my household, because of what I do for a living, my kids often say, like, Mom, not every kid is trafficked. And I said, I'm aware of that, but we can all know more, and we can all be educated on signs and what to look for and what to do if and when this happens to you, or somebody that you're friends with, or somebody that you know, and they don't know what to do. You could have some information for them that could help them get out of a really scary situation.
If anyone were to listen to this and they are a victim of sextortion, I just want to put into their head that they're not the ones who did anything wrong, that they're a victim. Someone is perpetrating a crime against them, and is just ask them to seek help. Find a safe person. If you're not comfortable talking to your parents, find someone to get that information out so that you don't have to live in fear anymore.
So I think that involvement that we have in our kids' lives needs to be at the same level in their phones. Set the expectation that you are going to look in that phone whenever I ask. And I am the owner of that phone. And when I ask it, I'm going to look through it, and you're going to answer questions about the phone.